back up in the front part. I'm working on this hatch right now. I'd gotten ahead of myself in the beginning and had this cross piece going full length, and I realized it wasn't going to give me enough of a hatch if I ever for some reason needed to get this gas tank out. So braced everything up with clamps and my levels, cut that out, and welded my sides in for my hatch, which is just 1 inch by 1 inch and a piece of flat bar on the bottom to give a lip for the hatch to set on. I need to cut and weld in another piece of 1 inch right there for the front part, and back here, and I'm pre-welding the flat bar on these over here on my workbench before putting them over in here. Got that front piece tacked in. The back piece for the hatch is tacked in. Those pieces with the 45s cut on them, that's going to be for the hatch door. I need to get over in there and fit them in and tack them. I did get all my legs cut. They're just laying in there. I run out of wire for the spool gun, so I took a break from that. 45 for the hatch doors. What's worked really well there is pretty inexpensive metal cutting blade from Harbor Freight on this saw right here, and just I'm keeping that set on 45. And when I'm making these hatch covers, I'm coming over here using that. All my straight cuts I just do on the bandsaw with a real coarse blade. Fine blade with aluminum, like a steel blade, it'll gum it up. The aluminum gets hot as you're cutting and it gums it up on you, so you gotta use a real coarse blade. So in the meantime, I did stop, took a break from crawling around in the boat, and started putting together some hatches. This is one that's, for right now it's done. It's going to need more work. Got flat bar lip inside. Weld on aluminum bullet hinges. So I'm using 1 inch square tubing, and then I just weld a piece of 1.5 inch flat bar on the back of it. And that's for my latch to hit against. These are the latches that I'll use. And they'll mount through like that, and that, when it's not in place right now, it'll come around and hit right on that. And these hatches will go back here over top of the battery boxes. There'll be one over there on that side of the motor and one on this side of the motor. Obviously that's not in place, it's just sitting there, but that's where it's going to go. It'll open up and you can access your battery boxes. I originally was going to buy pre-made heavy plastic hatch covers, but the more I looked at it, the more trouble that was going to be. And I said, you know what, let's just weld them up, sheet them, it'll last forever. I don't have to worry about it. And I can make it to whatever size I want, because the plastic ones, obviously, you don't get, they just give you some sizes to choose from, and none of them really were exactly what I wanted. So I finished up that lid, well, for today. So I had that already framed up. What works for me is I pull a tape measurement from one side to the other, and then I take a 1/4 inch off of it. So deduct a 1/4 inch and cut your 45 pieces, your pieces with 45s on the end. And that leaves you a gap. And just doing one little tack on each corner, then I set it back in the frame and I adjust it to where it's square to the frame. And then when I weld hinges on, I'll have to even the gap up on each side and get it even on both ends. And I weld 2 hinges on here, and I need to weld my little piece of scrap under the bottom for the latch to hook onto. And that one will be ready. I don't have my other hinges yet. I bought these two to test them. I never bought a aluminum bullet hinge like that, so they work good and I like them. So I ordered some more. They're not here yet. So that's all I can do until I get those other hinges in. And then I knock these welds down just a little bit because this is going to get sheeted on top and I want it to lay nice and flat. I gotta hit those. And I clean the corners up so they fit in nice. But that's that hatch, and that's all I can do on that till I get the hinges. I may jump in here and tack that one together. And then we'll be back to finishing up this framing for the flooring. So I'm at a stopping point. I know I haven't filmed every single inch of this just because it's a whole lot of in and out the boat. Some works on a table over here, some works in the boat. So it's just an update. I've got all the flooring system in place, and I'm going to take it outside and flip it over and check the bottom over real good and probably paint the bottom, check the trailer bunks, and then bring it back in. So what I've gotten done: front hatch over the anchor box. I'm not going to weld the hinges on until later because I think the hinge is sticking up. When it's like this, I can lay my sheeting on it and get the sheeting on better, and then I'll come back and do my hinges. Bracing for a cleat. Made an anchor roller. Tested it. Works pretty sweet. Made that out of a scrap piece of 2x2 square tubing. I cut it from about 1/2 inch to full thickness. So that's that piece. And then here and here, this was another just out of piece of flat sheet I had. I cut that out, welded it onto it, and then while it was hot, I just laid it on the side of the table and banged it with a hammer and bent that out, flared each side out, and then welded this loop on to hold it. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. It's just sitting there. I gotta bolt that on. And then all the flooring bracing is in place. And that's a hatch cover right there, a big one, over top of where the fuel tank's going to be at. In case I need to get in there. Got my hatch covers in place on the back. This one doesn't have hinges yet. I did weld hinges on this one just to see how it was all going to play out. works out real good. And if you can see, I just put two like clips on that. They slide in and lock in under the front lip, and then I'll put two and then back here I'll probably put two turn latches in it. So hang around and it'll be a little while. Once I get it painted, I may do a little quick update on that, and then we're going to put it back on the trailer and come back in here, and we're going to start building the cab on this thing, which is going to be interesting. So thanks for watching. Alright, we're outside with the boat. I was just finished up all the structural stuff for the floor and the bottom of the hull, and then before I can start putting the cab on this thing, if I want to paint it, now's the time, so I can flip it over out here and paint it. So I brought it out back, turned it over, took it off the trailer, flipped it, used paint stripper to do most of the heavy work, and got probably 90% of the paint off with paint stripper, and then came back and cut the rest off with a wire brush on my angle grinder, and then came back around and sanded everything up. This is what I'm going with. Seahawk Alumahawk. I'm doing the aluminum gray, and I'm going to spray it. So I'm going to mix some paint here. It's been sitting for a little bit, so I got to do a bunch of mixing and get it ready to go and get it in the sprayer. And this is going to wrap up what I'm considering it's going to be part 2 of this boat build. Got the paint sprayed yesterday, went well. So I'm going to let that sit and cure for another day or two, and I got to run and get some carpet because I've got the bunk boards off the trailer. While the boat's off, I'm going to redo the bunk boards, and then I'll get it turned over and back on the trailer and back in the shop. And as far as the videos go, we'll pick up with part 3. We'll start off back in the shop, starting to put a cab on this boat. So if you're interested in how that goes, hang around, come on back and watch for part 3. It'll be a couple weeks before that comes out. Thanks.